It's the holidays, so that means people are doing Christmas shopping, people are getting together with their families, spreading holiday joy, and of course Sony and Tencent are still fighting it out in court. It's Friday, so, wait a minute, I don't have an alliteration for Friday. Is it Fight Friday because the whole Sony and Tencent thing? Let's just run it back. Let's run it back. It's Friday, so all my life I had to fight. It's Mike, and I'm back to talk about the gaming news. But before we hop in the news, I should explain why I'm dropping this video on Friday. And that's basically because last week the news was pretty slow, so I didn't post a video. There was one Nintendo story, which we're going to talk about next. But other than that, there wasn't really any major news, which is common around the holidays. And then this weekend, I'm going to be out of town, so I'm not going to be able to drop this Sunday. So I was like, let me just gather up all the news from last week and this week, and we can talk about it. And a story dropped this morning, so it's actually great timing for a Fight Friday. Is that what we're calling it officially? But I guess it's appropriate given that Tencent is still in a fight with Sony over their upcoming game, Light of Motiram. So if you're not familiar, Sony is suing Tencent over the game because the art style and the main character design heavily resembles the Horizon series. The last update we had was Tencent was basically asking for the lawsuit to be dismissed because they said their game's not out yet, so there's no way they could be copying Sony. And Sony, on the other hand, asked for an injunction to prevent them from selling the game until the lawsuit was settled. Well, it looks like Tencent may be trying to compromise as they've agreed to stop public testing and promotion of the game. Based on the articles I've seen, it doesn't look like they were ordered to do this, but it may be them trying to compromise so Sony isn't granted the injunction to prevent them from selling the game altogether. Tencent already pushed the release date of the game back to Q4 of 2027, but as I mentioned the last time we talked about this whole Tencent mess, they could be in court past that time frame, especially with two big companies being involved. So that's why Sony is seeking the injunction to halt the sale of the game until the lawsuit is resolved. But I guess we'll have to wait and see if Sony is granted their request, or if Tencent's promise to not promote or publicly test the game is enough to satisfy the courts. But one gaming related sale that's not likely to be halted is Nintendo's recently announced studio purchase. So Nintendo has announced that they'll be purchasing Bandai Namco's Singapore studio, which will be renamed to Nintendo Studios Singapore. So Nintendo is expected to purchase 80% of the shares in the studio on April 1st, 2026, which is the first date of their next fiscal year, and then they'll purchase the remaining shares at a later unspecified date. The studio has worked with Nintendo before as they provided support for Splatoon 3, and they worked on other games, of course, like Soul Calibur 6 and Tekken 7 and 8. So I'm guessing Nintendo is buying them as a support studio, maybe for the next Splatoon or some upcoming games, like they could do another Pokken tournament. They do have that fighting game background. But yeah, it's not too often when Nintendo buys new studios, so it's interesting that they're picking this one up. The last thing I'll mention on this is, according to Nintendo, the studio will continue their operations as normal, except they'll probably just be working on Nintendo properties unless they had commitments to other studios prior to the purchase. But of course, Bandai Namco's sale to Nintendo isn't the only sale going on right now, as the EA sale is still looming. As we previously talked about, EA is being purchased for $55 billion by Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, or PIF, Silver Lake, and Affinity Partners. So everyone was aware that these three entities were coming together to buy EA, but it wasn't clear on how much of EA each party would own. Well, a new filing has revealed that Saudi Arabia's PIF would basically have majority control over EA, as they would own 93.4% of the company, with Silver Lake getting 5.5% and Affinity Partners getting 1.1%. So basically, it's pretty much going to be fully controlled by Saudi Arabia's PIF, with the other two firms most likely just getting a part of the revenue from it. That is, of course, if the sale passes through all the regulators. Now, I'm sure that Saudi Arabia's government really hopes this deal goes through because they've put a lot of money into it, apparently to the point where the PIF is now low on cash due to this deal. So it's being reported that Saudi Arabia is going to slow down in investments due to being low on cash and having several projects that are in financial distress. It's also being reported that they're restructuring their operations and are planning to invest in more conventional areas like publicly traded stocks going forward. So if this deal does go through, this could be the last big entertainment property that the PIF tries to purchase, because apparently right now that money is pretty tight.
Money wasn't tight, but it wasn't right. You know what I mean?
But you know what somehow costs even more than the EA deal? Netflix's new purchase. And that's what we're talking about today in our final story. So it's been rumored for a while that Warner Brothers is up for sale, and Netflix had a lot of interest in buying them. Now, I haven't covered that in my news videos because it's more focused on the stuff they would get as far as the TV rights and the movies and stuff like that. But of course, the reason that we're talking about it today is because it will have an effect on gaming. So Netflix and WB officially announced that Netflix will be acquiring WB for $82.7 billion, with a deal expected to close sometime in 2026. Of course, they have to go to the regulators for approval like normal, but if this deal does close, it would give them Warner Brothers TV and movie properties, so things like Harry Potter, the DC Universe, channels like Cartoon Network and HBO. But the real reason we're talking about this is that they will also get WB games. So that would include studios like NetherRealm, who of course does Mortal Kombat, Avalanche, who most recently did Hogwarts Legacy, and Rocksteady, who did the Batman Arkham games. Now, personally, I'm a little worried about these studios being purchased by Netflix because it wasn't even really mentioned in the press release. Like, the press release was focused on the TV and movie properties, so it makes me feel like the game part is kind of like an afterthought. Now, Netflix has been making more of a push in the gaming, but they kind of pulled back and decided to focus more on mobile games or smaller games, and they even shut down the studio they created to make a AAA game. Now, of course, it would be stupid for them not to take advantage of getting these studios since they're already doing gaming, but I also don't want the next Mortal Kombat to be tied to a Netflix subscription. So I think the best case scenario would be if they get these studios and you can still buy the games or play them as part of your Netflix subscription. But the worst case scenario is they get everything and then they shut down the gaming studios. But I don't think that's likely to happen either. I think that if they're not interested in keeping the studios, they would probably just sell them because they still have a lot of value. Either way, regardless of what Netflix is doing, I'm out of here. I gotta go hop on a plane in like less than 12 hours. And we should be back to our regularly scheduled news videos on the 14th. But let me know how you feel about this whole Netflix buying WB thing and what you think it means for the future of their gaming properties. Again, let me know down below. And if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to tell a friend, tell a coworker, like, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell notification button thing, wherever it is, to be notified when I drop a video or a live stream. And always do at least 2 things at the same time.